how risky really is this? And that will be very individual. But if we separate out where are these risks coming from, where are these thoughts and feelings coming from, how much of it is just my own emotional reaction, because it's completely different from the life that I had before. So of course it's going to feel uncomfortable and strange and, naturally fearful, but that doesn't necessarily make it more risky. And so that's where the assessment part comes in. So I hope that's helpful to everybody. And we've got a couple of minutes left. So just wanting to go back to see if there's any questions, and also if there's just any comments, like does any of this relate to people? How helpful were the tips? Or if you have any more questions about the tips, that would be great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there was a clarification on the question earlier about how does your faith worldwide view come into the discussion? I would say that when we talk about heritage is everything we adopt for ourselves today. And faith is a big component of some of our parents' beliefs. It's even if have a faith today, it does inform your decisions as well. I think going back to some of the tips, I would go back to when you're struggling with this question of what's the relationship with faith and risk-taking. That's a beautiful place to start if we go back to the tips that we just gave everyone here, is where does it come from, right? Is this an old belief? Is it your belief or a belief someone put upon you? So it's really important to dissect where does your belief about faith and that relationship to risk-taking. And then also my other tip about challenging yourself is if there's a part of you where that you want to redefine what faith in your life looks like, that's where we need to come across your discomfort. So do it, we always should feel in choice. So if the choice is the faith is important, I think at the end of the day, whatever your choices are, we still need to do it from a place of compassion and kindness. We don't ever want to do something totally on the extreme end of risk-taking that could end up hurting a loved one, for example. So when we're talking about risk-taking, we're talking about like professional risk-taking. We still need to know that there's a systematic bias in the corporate world that we work in. So it's more about how can you take strategic risks so you can better navigate this system and then still come out on the other side confident, not burned out, having grace for yourself. So it's all the things we want to do that's risk-taking, but still feels authentic and true to who you want to be. So that's how I would answer that question.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, and hopefully that does address that question from our viewer. Thank you so much for bringing it up. The only thing I'll quickly add to that is that I think your faith, whatever your faith may be, or if you have no particular religion that you ascribe to, would come into, for example, an assessment of the risk, right? So having a faith in any religion may affect how risky you see a situation, especially if your faith practice or your faith beliefs leads you to see something as less risky or more risky. And I'm also aware from a trauma-informed perspective that sometimes what we've learned and what fears have been instilled in us come from a place of religion. And there's a lot of don'ts in many of the religions that I'm aware of. And myself growing up in a Catholic culture, if not an actual faith practice, there were a lot of don'ts that came with that, particularly for myself as a woman. So it can be on both sides. So I would say it's very individual and should be incorporated in your individual assessment of what's true and real for you. Yeah, so thank you so much. Thank you to all the people who joined us today and for your comments and questions. To me, it's such an important part of community building, and I really appreciate and value your engagement. Thank you to Jen. Again, just claps for the courage to share openly and reflect live in real time and do this together. It was such a pleasure, and just a wonderful way to engage during Asian American and Asian Heritage Month.